would say, Sandy, how is your courage? I heard him ask other people the same question many times. My answer usually would be, today, so far, so good. But I got to thinking about what the meaning of courage is and what the Bible has to say about courage. What was my dear friend really asking me? So I looked up the definition of courage. One definition is mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Courage is also defined as being motivated from the heart to do something brave. Well, my answer, so far so good, didn't really have anything to do with anything motivated from my heart. And at the time of the question, I wasn't in danger or fear or difficulty. Courage is something that somebody wants, an attribute of good character that makes us worthy of respect. In Proverbs, it says, fear and courage are brothers. Well, so far, none of that fit my answer, did it? I checked with some different quotes that different people had about courage. This one is from Oliver Wendell Holmes. And he says, courage is about doing what you're afraid to do. There can be no courage unless you're scared. Have the courage to act instead of react. Another quote, this one's by Marianne Radmacher. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. Another quote by Jean Anol says, until the day of his death, no man can be sure of his courage. And my last quote was from Marcus Tullius Cicero. A man of courage is also full of faith. I found all of these to be interesting quotes from different people, some probably more spiritual than others. So then I thought, what does the Bible say about courage? Christians see the word courage as being used when someone takes a stand for biblical principles. God inspires believers to encourage one another. In Deuteronomy, there are 2 verses, and it says to encourage and strengthen Joshua, for he shall lead his people. That tells me we should be encouraging one another also. And in Acts 28, here Paul is thanking God and is encouraged. That tells me God encourages us too. In Ephesians 4, we are called to live a life that exhibits godly character, moral courage, personal integrity, and a mature behavior. Life that expresses gratitude to God for your salvation. Good courage is pleasing to God. And there are so many texts in the Bible that gives us more words on how to be encouraging and how to have that courage that is pleasing to God. In Chronicles 28, Chronicles 19, in Psalms, in Joshua, more in Psalms. Let's go to Joshua 1:9. Did I not command you? Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed, for Yahweh your God is with you wherever you go. That's pretty encouraging. Is that something that we can also encourage others? In Deuteronomy 31, it pretty much says very much the same words. Be strong and courageous. You should not be afraid, and you should not be in dread from their presence. For Yahweh your God is the one going with you. He will not leave you alone, and he will not forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua, and he said to him, in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you will go with this people into the land that Yahweh swore to their ancestors to give to them, and you will give it to them as an inheritance. Yahweh is the one going before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you alone. He will not forsake you. You shall not be afraid, and you shall not be discouraged. Are these promises that we can claim also? I think so. And then I want to think about Courage. Just think about David and Goliath. And young David, I mean, what courage did that take? Let's go to 1 Samuel 16. We'll start in verse 20. David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper. He took the provisions, and these were the provisions his father had said to take to his brothers who were in war. Take the provisions that Jesse had commanded him. He came to the encampment while the troops were going to the battle line, and they raised the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle lines, one battle line against the other. David left the baggage he had with him in the care of the baggage keeper. He ran to the battle line and came and asked how his brothers were doing. While he was speaking with them, the champion, whose name is Goliath the Philistine from Gath, was coming up from the caves of the Philistines. He spoke just as he had previously, and David heard his words. When all the men of Israel saw the man, they fled from his presence, and they were very afraid. There wasn't a lot of courage going on there, was there? And the men of Israel said, "Did you see this man who has come up? He's going up to defy Israel. It will be that the man who defeats him. The king will make him very rich. He will give him great wealth. He will give him his daughter in marriage, and he will make his father's house free in Israel." They were pretty serious, the king was. He wanted to be rid of Goliath. Now David had spoken to the men who were standing with him, saying, "What will be done for the man who defeats this Philistine and removes the disgrace from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he defies the battle lines of the living God?" And the troops had spoken to him according to this word, saying, "So it will be done for the man who defeats him." His eldest brother Eliab heard while he was speaking to the men, and Eliab became very angry with David and said, "Why have you come down today? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness?" You can just hear an older brother saying those words, can't you? "I know your presumptuousness and the evil of your heart, for you've come down in order to see the battle." David replied, "What have I done now? I merely ask a question." You can also picture a little brother asking that. He turned around from him to another opposite him, and he spoke to him in the same way, and the people answered him as before. Then David appears before Saul. Now the words which David had spoken were heard, and they reported them to Saul, and he summoned him. David said to Saul, "Do not let anyone's heart fail concerning him. Your servant will go and fight with the Philistine." But Saul said to David, "You will not be able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, because you're only a boy, whereas he's been a man of war ever since his childhood." And David said to Saul, "Your servant has been a shepherd of the flocks, of his father's flocks. And if a lion or a bear would come and carry off a sheep with the group, I would go out after it, and I would strike it down and rescue the sheep from its mouth. If it rose against me, I would grab it by its beard and strike it down and kill it. Your servant has struck down both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he defies the battle lines of the living God." And David said, "Yahweh, who rescued me from the hand of the lion, from the hand of the bear, will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine." Then Saul said to David, "Go, and may Yahweh be with you." Here we see the courage of David. But what I like the most is that David doesn't take credit for his strength and courage. He gives all that credit to God who rescued him. Now I can more understand when asked, "How's your courage today?" I can say, "My courage is strong," because I can claim the promise God gave me when he said, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed, for Yahweh your God is with you wherever you go." My prayers are that God is with me daily to strengthen and encourage me, and that I may also be an encourager to those around me. How about you? How is your courage?